we taking the opportunity to do good to others? This world today is a hurting place. I imagine that there's folks here tonight that if we really took the time and could get everyone just where we could talk to them, everyone has a heartache. The world is a hurting place today. Do we really take the time to help others? Do we really take the time to minister to others? When someone's going slow in front of you and you like to hurry up and go around them, you don't consider where they've been. You don't consider the circumstances they've under. The only thing we want to do is blow the horn and speed around them as fast as we can, and we completely forget. And we take no insights into the problems or the situations of life that they might have. It's the same way when we go to the restaurant and do we really give a tip to the waitress so that she'd want to come to our church? Because waitresses have all gotten together. I've had friends of ours that are waitresses, and a couple. My granddaughter in marriage was one for a while, and she said they all got together and knew that any time a group came and had prayer, they wasn't going to get very many tips. That crowd doesn't tip. They knew it. That's Christian people, by the way. Do we really think about the needs of others when we're going through our lifestyles? One of the greatest handicaps to Christian faith is the lifestyle of some people who profess their Christian faith. Son, remember thy lifetime. Remember Lot? Do you remember Lot? He was so influenced by a worldly lifestyle that he lost everything good in his life. And suddenly we find that in a cave God pulled the curtain down of his life, and you hear no more about Lot. And Samson, we think much of Samson, and we think of his bulging biceps and his long hair, and we think of the great things that he did. But let me tell you something. Samson was the story of a colossal failure. And remember Lot's wife? Well, we ought to think about that for a moment. She couldn't turn away from a lifestyle, and it destroyed her. And she became a camel lick. Son, remember your lifetime. Do we have enough compassion to touch and comfort lives of others? Baptists don't need any conviction. We got conviction. We know what conviction is. We know where we stand. We're pretty straight on our doctrine. You don't have to worry about us too much on our doctrine. But folks, I'm going to tell you something. Our lives can use some attention. Maybe this would be a better sermon preached on a Sunday morning instead of a Wednesday night. But I'm convinced about something, and that is that we all need to keep track of our lives. We need to keep our lives where our lives need to be. We need to be taking every opportunity. Remember now thy Creator in the days of thy youth, says Solomon in his wisdom, so that whenever you realize you're going the wrong way, you've got plenty of time to correct it and get it back to being where it ought to be. Whenever I think of this, I come down to the conclusion of this, and I begin to think of something. What attention are we giving to the Word of God? What part is it really in our lives? I remember what old John R. Rice, I believe this from cover to cover. And then he said, I also believe the cover. Holy book. What part is the Bible in our lives? Is it unimportant to us? Has it lost its significance? Oh my God, I don't want to go without this. If the Lord were to take this away from me, I would say, Lord, can you take me with it? This is a part of my life. Christianity is not just something you live or believe, it's something you live. It's a lifestyle. And people today think, well, it's something I can believe, but I can live any way I want to live. No, you can't. Not and be the testimony that you ought to be, and the life of the average Christian today, if you please. He's tattooed and he's pierced. If you please, he uses tobacco when he wants to. He uses language that he wants to use when he wants to use it. He goes to places that he probably ought not to be there, and he says things that he ought not to say, and he has relegated the Word of God and the house of God to a place of no significance. Richard was telling me in Columbus, he gave a tract to a young man that he felt that God was speaking to him about. And the young man, the Spirit of God had been dealing with him about salvation. And he took the tract, he was just thinking about it. And he was on his break, and he went into the stall of the men's washroom and was ready to take care of some business. And he looked down into the toilet, and he saw a tract that someone had thrown away. And when he looked there, he said it just broke his heart. And he reached down in there and pulled it out of the toilet and dried it off with a piece of toilet paper, and he said, "That's what I've done to God. I've just thrown him away." And you know something? He sat down there and he read that tract, and he got saved over that tract. You know, folks, some of us, we have our doctrine, we have everything together, but we've lost the importance of living a godly lifestyle. And we've relegated the house of God to a place of unimportance. You know, look at our gang tonight. God bless you for all of you being here. But it burdens me. Because if everyone was here tonight that ought to be here, this auditorium would be filled, and you wouldn't have choir. You wouldn't have room for extra seats in the choir loft either. We've gotten away from the things of God. We've gotten away from the Word of God. We've gotten away from holy living and realizing that Christianity is not just something we believe, it's a lifestyle that we live. We have 10 commandments. We don't have 10 suggestions. We have 10 commandments. And God knows more about life and death than any of us or all of us put together. And He didn't give those rules to us to be difficult for us. He gave them to us to ensure us a degree of happiness. Whenever I begin to think of today, and I'm not necessarily, I don't mean to be judgmental, and I don't mean to be judgmental of you either, but you know, if I'm going to have something done to my body, if I'm going to have a tattoo on it, well, why am I going to do that? It's not because it's encouraged in the church. And I don't know of any leading evangelists that go around getting them. And I'm certainly, there isn't any of them on the body of pastor. We're not going to be finding people. Where do we get this? Sometimes our kids know more about television programs than they do the heroes of the Bible. We have stopped evangelizing the world, and we are being evangelized by the world, and the world is winning more Christians to its way of thinking than Christians are winning the world to the way of salvation. We're losing the battle because we have put the Word of God to a place of insignificance and unimportance, and we put the house of God to the place of insignificance and unimportance. We live in all of this luxury, and then we belittle it whenever we think, well, I don't know why God said a tenth. Boy, that's a lot of money to give back to Him, when actually He blesses us more than what we give Him. Whenever we begin to think of this, son, would you take a little bit of time and remember your lifestyle? While you've got time to change it, while you've got time to improve it. Come on with me if you would, please. And let's think about our moments of prayer. I'm sure that you got it on your email. Katie said, thank the Lord, she's praising God because she got to witness to someone in Japanese.